Wow, leading the stories in the NFL are the Jacksonville Jaguars. They've been dominating the news on the internet lately, and it is because of the dysfunction. Trent Baalke's kind of a lame duck GM, held over from the Urban Meyer regime. And it's pretty wild what's going on. Byron Leftwich was, speculated to be the guy. They had Hackett and Eberflus, ironically, as their two other choices. But listen, if you're a head coach candidate out there, I would not even want to interview in Jacksonville because they don't really have a set plan. Shad Khan, he first hires Urban Meyer, then he keeps Trent Baalke along. If you're going to ride, and keep Trent Baalke, then you got to let Trent run the search. And clearly, Byron Leftwich does not want to be any part does not want any part of Trent Baalke. So the fact that they're even interviewing Byron Leftwich and inviting him back for a second interview, if you're going to keep Trent Baalke, that is a major, major mistake. If you're going to relieve Trent Baalke of his duties, you need to do that immediately. Now, maybe Shad Khan is just in love with Byron Leftwich, and I think that Leftwich does have potential to be a really good head coach. Now, Leftwich is asking for a lot. He is asking for a GM also in this process, and, I get he can be selective. He's on a world championship team. He does have a really good job as an offensive coordinator. Today, he was, the Saints are interested in interviewing Byron Leftwich. But Adrian Wilson is incredibly young as well. So, both of these guys are young. Adrian played a lot. Byron, so they're both veterans of the league, so they both know football. So it is fun because, thinking about this even more, compared to the Vikings GM that is a Wall Street, power broker, these guys would have also an interesting process of using numbers, but they have tangible evidence of watching guys play football as well. So maybe they'd be, more apt to look at guys' technique, guys on film. The Minnesota GM is just a tremendous story. But this story here in Jacksonville, I mean, the fact that the owner is 1 foot in with Trent Baalke, if I was Baalke, I would resign. I mean, he's getting tossed around like a rag doll. Byron Leftwich in this process is being held at the altar. It's just a mess, like what's getting leaked, what's not getting leaked. It's not a tightly run organization. At all. The New York Giants, for as bad as they are, and I guess you could say, hey, the Browns were not tightly run either, and now the Browns are getting it right. So as long as you get it right, it's fine. And for a young quarterback, you do look at Byron Leftwich, and, is it Tom Brady or is Leftwich going to be able to scheme it up with Trevor Lawrence? And I'm sure that Lawrence certainly wants Byron Leftwich. I mean, compared to the guys that they're interviewing, I mean, they were interviewing Hackett, Eberflus, I don't think he would have been a great fit with a young quarterback. Again, Kellen Moore and O'Connell are really solid guys, but again, a lot of the guys, they don't want to interview in Jacksonville because it's all turbulent. They play a lot of games over in London, and now you don't even know who the GM is in this process. You don't have a GM running the search. Nobody is congruent throughout this whole thing. And, if Shad Khan's going to give the reins to Adrian Wilson and Byron Leftwich, he's going to take a back seat to Adrian and Byron Leftwich. And I'm sure that these guys are actually irritated at this process because no one's happy with Shad Khan because Shad Khan is not really making any sort of decision whatsoever. And in fact, he's letting the fan base kind of dictate what's going to be good for Jacksonville. The fans were all in on Urban Meyer. Thought it was a tremendous hire, and now all the fans are in on Byron Leftwich. He's a youthful, he's a QB. He was a QB in Jacksonville, so it's kind of like Scott Frost in a sense. They want, one of their own to return, and I get that. And Byron does have qualities that are very interesting for Trevor Lawrence, and he's so much better than Vic Fangio and these other guys that Trent Baalke has worked with. I mean, Chip Kelly didn't work out, and all that. So It's unbelievable that Trent Baalke, even in this process, is there. Jacksonville, you'd think that they'd want to hire, maybe the coach first, maybe then the GM. But the fact that they're holding Baalke kind of there as a lame duck general manager is just wild, to say the least. And it's just been complete chaos in Jacksonville. And it remains to be seen if Byron and Adrian Wilson are going to get this job done. But this whole hiring process has just been crazy. There have been sources saying it's a done deal, but it hasn't happened. You have conflicting reports everywhere. So it just seems like a very chaotic situation. And maybe that's because the owner, again, is giving, maybe even too much outside info to reporters and things of that nature. So it's a wild show in Jacksonville, that's for sure. Trent Baalke now going to be released after being involved in every single search. So half the guys that you interviewed were supposed to be working with Trent Baalke, but now, a candidate who doesn't want to work with Baalke says one thing, so then you fire Trent Baalke. Whereas, if you talk to Leftwich the first time, there should have been, you should have said to Byron, hey, listen, before Jimmy Sexton got Byron this interview, hey, we either really like Baalke, or beforehand you should have said, hey, Baalke's going to, there's going to be candidates in this process, kind of like the Giants, that are not going to be interested in this Jacksonville job. What are you going to end up doing about all of this? So the whole process has just been completely bonkers in Jacksonville.